Welcome back. For 9 Explainers Now, we've dug deep into the very real threat space weather poses to our electronic world. But today, in our final installment, we're making a big shift. We're moving from the problem to the solution. This is your action plan.
Everything we've covered in this series comes from a detailed report by the RFI detectives, who are part of Virtualization Options, LLC. And now, in this 10th and final part, we're getting to the most important topic of all, what we can actually do about it. So let's get right to it.
Here's the game plan. We're going to kick things off with the single most important step you can take, awareness. From there, we'll drill down into specific, actionable advice for everyone, whether you're trying to protect your home, your business, or the critical infrastructure we all rely on.
Okay, so we've explored how a storm on the sun can mess with everything from your Wi-Fi router to the entire power grid. That was the what. Now we get to the really good part, the what to do about it. This is where all that knowledge turns into real power.
Forget about all the special hardware or complicated plans for just a second. The single most powerful and frankly most cost-effective strategy is just being aware. It's simply knowing when a space weather event is on its way.
And I'm not just saying that. This is the absolute foundation for everything else we're about to talk about. Why? Well, think about it. If you have just a few hours' notice, you can take simple steps, like, say, holding off on a critical software update that could prevent a huge system failure. Awareness gives you options.
So how do you stay aware? Well, this right here is your toolkit. For the pros out there, the IT managers and engineers, the SWPC notification service is absolutely essential. You can set up email alerts. For the rest of us, a site like spaceweather.com is fantastic. It's easy to understand and gives you everything you need to know. There's really a tool here for everybody.
So when you're setting up those alerts, what should you look for? The report points to these key thresholds. Think of G3 for geomagnetic storms, S2 for solar radiation, and R3 for radio blackouts as the red flag levels. This is the point where most electronics can really start to feel the effects. And, great pro tip here, if you're managing critical systems, maybe set those alerts a little lower to give yourself even more of a head start.
All right, let's bring this down to a personal level. How do you protect the stuff in your own home? And look, you don't need to build a bunker. A few smart, simple choices can make a massive difference for the tech you use every single day.
Here's your simple 3-step home defense plan. 1. Keep an eye on the forecast. If a big solar storm is coming, maybe that's not the best time to update the firmware on your smart TV. 2. When you can, choose quality electronics. Seriously, this matters. Good brands tend to use better power supplies and shielding inside their devices, which gives you a built-in layer of protection. And 3. Get a UPS, an uninterruptible power supply for your most important stuff, like your router and your computer. It's not just a battery backup. It actively cleans up the power, protecting your gear from the glitches a solar storm can cause.
Okay, now let's scale this up. For all the business leaders and IT managers out there, the game changes. We're not just talking about one router. We're talking about keeping an entire organization running. The stakes are much higher, and the strategies need to be too.
This is less about buying gadgets and more about strategic thinking. First question, is space weather even in your business continuity plan? Have you thought about how much you rely on GPS for precise timing? And this one's huge. You should require ECC memory in your critical systems. That's error-correcting code memory. It's literally designed to find and fix the exact kind of tiny data errors that solar radiation can cause in a server. These are smart, strategic investments that can head off a major disaster.
All right, now we're putting on our hard hats. We're talking heavy-duty engineering. This is for the folks who design and maintain the systems that run our power plants, our water treatment facilities, our factories. Here, the threat requires a much tougher defense.
To get why this is such a big deal for heavy industry, you have to understand something called GICs, geomagnetically induced currents. The simplest way to think about it is this. A major solar storm makes the Earth's magnetic field wobble. And that wobble can turn hundreds of miles of power lines or data cables into one giant antenna that soaks up stray electrical current right out of the ground. That current can then flow straight into and destroy the sensitive equipment at either end.
And this right here shows you exactly why a specific technology choice is so incredibly important. A long copper cable, it's basically a magnet for these harmful GIC currents. But fiber optic cable, it's totally immune. It sends data using pulses of light, not electricity, so GICs can't touch it. For critical connections, fiber isn't just an upgrade, it's a suit of armor.
So for the engineers out there, this is your to-do list. It's all about building a defense in layers. You've got to formally assess your vulnerability to space weather, not just to things like floods or fires. You've got to harden your industrial control systems with that same ECC memory we talked about for business servers. And you need a clear, written plan for what to do the moment a G3 warning comes in, including having spare parts ready to go. And of course, use fiber optic links for your most critical paths to take that GIC threat completely off the table.
So after 10 explainers full of warnings and recommendations, what's the big takeaway? You might think it's a bit scary, but actually, the real message here is one of empowerment. We are not helpless.
This quote from the report really just hits the nail on the head. This isn't some disaster movie plot. It's a normal, recurring part of living on this planet, just like hurricanes or earthquakes. And just like those other natural phenomena, it's something we can prepare for.
And that's really what this whole series has been building towards. Resilience isn't some complicated, far-off goal. It's achievable, and it's built one informed, deliberate choice at a time. Whether you're the consumer buying a new router, the CEO updating a business plan, or the engineer choosing what kind of cable to run, every single one of us has the power to reduce our vulnerability.
We've laid it all out. The threat from the sun and the playbook for how to respond, all based on the fantastic work of the RFI detectives. We've given you the knowledge. The next step, turning that knowledge into action, well, that's up to you.